All right, I'm going to start this video with the giveaway. If you commented in any of these comments you were entered in, some people have literally 6 entries at these, and we're going to be shipping out this Robin mat. Again, if you don't win this mat, you can always buy it from the Etsy. That is KidBot, and you can use the promo code KEKFILA to get 10% off. But let's just roll it and then get the video started. And congratulations, Chicken Nuggets 1391. I will message you in YouTube. I'm actually going to message you in the comments. You need to get back with me on those comments, brother. I will see you guys in this video. Have a good one. Ciao. It's a great day here at KEKFILA's YouTube channel. Your most boring of intros of all time, but I want to say this is not a vlog of my Pasadena trip. I'll be having some of that more concept, but more of a recap of everything that happened on the weekend. And I had some good results. And also with that, my experiences from the Pasadena trip at the beginning of September. I'm going to have a whole breakdown of everything kind of right here, but there's going to be a lot more content put through, especially a handful of games. And really, I want to say for these games down here, it's going to be a little back and forth. So look at the timestamps down below. I'll probably have some games here. I do 6 games at DXN, the local they have in Pasadena. And then there's also, I do my 9 rounds of my tournament, of the main tournament from Saturday. And then I also do 2 smaller tournaments on Sunday, and I'll also tell you about those and how all those games went. And there is even some recordings of that second day of games. So without further ado, let's get into the goo. First, I want to say, going to Pasadena, I want to say that I was so incredibly sick a few days before. I felt really sick on Thursday morning. I even called out of work to try to feel better. On Friday, I even felt worse. I think the air quality in Utah just got really bad all of a sudden. A lot of people were getting sick. So with that, I took to the skies on Friday. My brother picked me up, and essentially as I went there, I met Jules at the airport. We sat at different places on the plane because we set it up that way. And then we landed, and finally, paradise. I felt better right as I fell onto California soil. Just maybe because the air quality, maybe it's in my head, I'm not sure. We took the flyaway bus. We went to Van Nuys to get picked up by Josh O, aka Saucy, and he chaperoned us to a couple places. We have a little bit of vlog footage with that. We were able to go get some great Korean barbecue for lunch, and then after that great Korean barbecue, took us to the hotel. Then we went to DXN, and I met the strangest wizard, the strongest wizard, there at the shop. And really, I do want to say I have something that's really awesome. These great sleeves here, and I'll put them on the screen here. I want to make sure everyone knows about these. I am very pro KMC clear mats. They're very cheap. And really, you can get, for if you buy the bundle of them, you can get $4 for 60 sleeves, which is extremely cheap, but they kind of don't really last the test of time. And in Vanguard, I always use Dragon Shield clears to go over my character sleeves, but Dragon Shield recently came out with some outer clears that go over this, and it's 100 sleeves for about 13 bucks. Honestly, I tried them and I really love them, and I think I'll probably be buying a lot more of them going forward. I want to really publicize Dragon Shield clear outers, please. That's the new sleeve I'm going to be using for the time being. With that, I actually did meet a couple fans there. I actually met one of our coaches, One Piece. He's also in the Will to Win Gaming Discord, and people were just so nice coming up and meeting me, and most people knew who I was, and it was just kind of nice on a Friday at this random local. I know Jackson Wong was also there. He was just hanging out with some buddies. They were doing some OPO4 testing. And essentially we had a 28-man locals. I went 4 wins, 1 loss. And let me just go into all my games real quick. My first game I play against this kid who's playing Zoro. I just curved out really well. He made some mistakes. I let him take back mistakes. Usually I'm okay doing that if I feel very confident. And his mistake was he didn't know that things work a certain way, and I was okay with it, right? So I ended up winning that. So I'm 1-0 Zoro, and my friend, he lost to a black player, and the other person was playing Rob Lucci, and I ended up facing that guy who's sitting next to me. So Jules lost to this guy, and then I faced this guy, and I just curved out really, really well. When you play a lot of Mihawks back to back to back, it's just very powerful, and I ended up taking that game. So far I was 2-0. Going into my 3rd round, I actually ended up facing One Piece. He's playing Zoro, and he wins the dice roll, goes first, and he actually wins the game against me. And I want to say, with that game, he played a Gordon on turn 1, and when I go second, I really like to play a 4-cost, like a Gecko Moria 4/6, and that's what I did. And then he even shows he's gonna be playing a Marco, so he like Gordons it and Marcos me, and I don't really think I could do anything about that. I'm still kind of forced to play it, and really I just had not a great game the rest of it. He had the out with that, and he played very aggressive, and I couldn't really come back from not having that body. So he saw the out, he played it well, and yeah, Gordon broken. So with that, going next, we have my game 4. I play against a Katakuri, I believe. Might have been a Yamato, I'm not sure at the moment. He was a very nice guy, and I think the game was actually closer than I remember, but I was just playing blue against yellow, and I have a very strict strategy against yellow. And in that setup, I was able to just come clean with the win. I do have these games. I will put these up on YouTube at some point, all 5 of these games. And the last game I played against Ash, he was the other Doflamingo there. So we're both 3-1 at this point, and I was able to win the dice roll. I went first, and unfortunately Ash bricked pretty bad. And it's kind of the thing that can happen sometimes when you're playing Doflamingo, and I wish there was more to say about the game. It's just he ended up bricking, and you know that can happen with any deck, but in the mirror it's even more worse. But shout outs to Ash. He's, I guess, a diehard Doflamingo fan, and I'm glad he watches the channel, and glad I got to play against you and hang out with you a little bit on Saturday and Sunday at the tournament. And after that, we go over back to our hotel and the Rose and Crown. We probably might go to a different hotel next time we go to Pasadena in November. And we were hungry. We decided to go to the worst Mexican restaurant that's really close to it. It was absolutely abysmal. We got it to go, and we just watched One Piece, the live action, and went to bed. But the great thing is we were already signed up for the tournament. We got our deck registered, and this whole time Saucy was going back and forth. Should I play Ace? Should I play Doflamingo? Okay, I'll play Doflamingo, but should I not play these cards? I'm very strict the way I play in my deck, and I tell him don't play this, don't play that. So it's kind of obnoxious, but he decides to go, I say, the inferior build, but honestly, it's like 3 cards. What am I getting? It's that inferior. It's basically the same. But his buddy was trying to get in early so they can get into the wait list. I didn't have to get to the wait list, so I slept until 9 in the morning. My tournament starts at 10. We Ubered over. We're a 25-minute walk, but we decided to Uber over there and just hang out with some people. I was able to talk to Eggman, able to talk to Orange Samurai, a lot of people. And one thing that's so awesome is that a lot of people would come up to me, or I'd just be walking around. They'd stop me and say, "Hey, are you the KEKFILA?" And they listen to my podcast. I give them a loser don, and they would be so happy. Like, I stopped you so I can get a loser don. And honestly, it's just a great feeling. It's kind of like a little celebrity, but you know, it'll probably go to my head, and I'm just more happy that you guys come up to me and say hi, and maybe I'll have even better rewards for the next time I do things. So yeah, with that, I'm actually going to go out into the games, And the main thing I want to preface to this is a 512 person tournament, so it's not as large as most, so it's going to be 9 rounds of Swiss. And at the time, I tried to curve out my diet. Didn't curve it out too well. I had to use the bathroom. Ugh. So, game 1, I face against Tristan. And Tristan, he was playing yellow Katakuri. He wins the die roll, and so I am forced to go second. And I actually brick pretty hard. I don't quite remember. I don't think I had a really good 4-Dawn play. I didn't have my usual 6-Dawn play with playing a 3-cost in that. So I didn't really have a very good curve into him. And he was able to curve 2 10-drop Big Moms pretty effectively, may I add. He was able to burn 2 of my lives. And I mean, here's the thing, right? This guy, he played actually perfect. He played absolutely perfect until the last turn. Like he gave me the out to win essentially, and I'll explain how that was. So all that really happened is that I had a boa blocker out, and I had 4K counter in my hand, and I had 2 3-cost blockers. So I had 3 blockers out. I had 1 life. He pays 7 to play down a 7-drop Big Mom, and he is at 3 life, man, you, okay? He played a 7-drop Big Mom, and I burn a life, okay? So I burn my life, so now I'm at 0 life, and he only has 3 attacks. And so I'm thinking, well, he has 3 life. If I have to block with all 3 of these characters, I can't kill him. I need to attack him 4 times. So this sucks really bad. And so he overthinks it, and he decides to pay 2 and use a Thunderbolt. A Thunderbolt burns 1 of their life and KOs 1 of my 5 costs or less. He does not burn my boa, which it doesn't matter if he burned my boa or not. But I do want to say, when it comes to that, he just said he forgot boa was a blocker, right? I just needed him to be at 2 life, or I have 4 bodies in order to barely win. And he chose to burn his life, and he swung for 7. I was able to counter out for that 7, and then he swung for 12 and 12. I blocked with the 2 blockers, and then he had no Dawn up. He had like a few cards in hand, and I'm like, well, I'll swing for 9, 10, and 10. And I was able to pull out the win just barely. He burned his life, and you know, mistakes happen. Mistakes will happen. Definitely capitalize on your opponent's mistakes, but I think Tristan didn't do too well the rest of the tournament. But I want to say he played everything perfectly until the last turn. So keep your head up high, Tristan, if you're listening to this video, because you did play it really well. Just the very last turn. I guess we just forgot Bo was a blocker, and I probably communicated it, but regardless of what happens, GG's, man. Game 2. This is a spicy one. I'll make sure to label this here. Okay. I actually had a player. He was not very happy with me after the fact, but we'll talk about before the fact. So I'm not going to tell his name. And to preface all of this, before every game, I throw up a selfie, and you'll see every selfie here of the player and me before the game. And I just tell them I'm trying to have a good time. You know, I kind of like document this a little bit, just to have some fun. And can I have a selfie with you? And I also have a gift for you at the end of the game, no matter if I win or lose. And they always say yes. They're really in a good mood. They came to Pasadena to have a good tournament. So I turn around, have a selfie with them. And my opponent, me and him, we're bonding over our previous game, saying, oh yeah, my last opponent threw. And I'm like, dude, mine kind of did too. That's kind of crazy. And my opponent, he's playing Smoker, and really there isn't much to say about the game in general. I was just able to curve out really, really well, and he also decided to go first, which was kind of odd, but I curved out really well. I was able to just remove his bodies and then beat him slowly by attacking his bodies and then attacking his life. And that was basically it. And, you know, again, this guy was pretty cool before. He was like, he subbed my YouTube in front of me because he thought everything I was doing was pretty cool. And then I gave him a Loser Dawn. So I gave the other person a Loser Dawn as well. I was giving a lot of people Loser Dawn that day. If they faced them, or if I happened to be walking by and they said they recognized me, I gave them a Loser Dawn. And honestly, 99% of people love them. Or maybe like there's maybe a couple guys who are like, oh, okay, thanks. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And but he thought about it for a minute. He didn't like that, and I'm gonna tell you a dramatization of actually what happened. Hey man, I'm gonna give you back this card. Oh, okay. Is everything okay? No. I don't like that. I gotta tell you, I see right through you, and I don't like what I see. So I'm gonna give this back to you. I'm also gonna ask you to delete that selfie of us. Oh, okay. I'm so sorry, man. Let me just delete it for you. See, all deleted. No worries, man. You have a great rest of your day and good luck with the rest of your games. That was the whole conversation. Is pretty awkward. It's kind of the problem with comedy sometimes. Sometimes you might get someone upset and you might get punched in the face. So I'm sure it's come and due sometime, but at the end of the day, I want to tell everybody that it's all jokes. It's all this loser don stuff. I don't take it personally, and hopefully we get to meet and I can give you a loser don as well. So, or whatever I have cooking at the time. I don't know. It's something to have a keepsake. With that, I know 2-0. I go to round 3. I face Wilson Wade. If you guys don't know who that is, Wilson Wade is actually the name of Deadpool in the movies and shows, right? And or Wade Wilson, sorry, Wilson Wade. Great. But I ended up facing Nick, and I think his Discord is like Hattori. And apparently I've played with this guy before online. He has actually added me on Discord before. We didn't find out till later that night, but he's a pretty cool dude. He was very high energy. I'm facing a law, and that's kind of a problem for Doflamingo, right? Him facing a law, and I don't remember if I won the dice roll or not. I believe I may have won the dice roll, and I decided to go second, but I actually may have lost the dice roll, and he decided to go second. So regardless of what happened, why I won this game, and I did win this game. Why I won this game is that on his law turn, he places a Bonnie, and he uses Bonnie. And then he uses law skill, picks up a 2K counter Machino, places down the law, and then picks up another Machino, not his Bonnie, that's rested, and places down a Zoro. And I thought it was really interesting at the time. And, he did that kind of fast. I'm thinking he just wasn't thinking at all. We were just having a good old time, and he made a big mistake. So I was able to get out one blocker from here, one blocker from his main thing, and then swing at it again. And he had to give me 5K counter to get out of that swing, which is pretty nuts, if I have to say. So that pretty much crippled him pretty much. But even then, Law, he came back so hard that at the very end of the game, I needed to see in my last life a Gum Rain. And think what? I saw Gum Rain, and I pitched a 3,000 roll to defend out for 7K his last attack, and he just forfeited. I won the game. I gave him the loser don. He was super happy about the loser don, and honestly, just a really good sport of things. I think he ended up going 7-2. So I went 7-2 as well, right? So he ended up doing as good as me, and unfortunately, we didn't do anything better than that. But he did really well, and I'm glad he did well in the rest of his games, and I'm sure he's kicking himself for that Bonnie play. But you know what? These things happen. So take advantage when your opponent makes a mistake. Bam. Next up, I actually have the next game, which is where I was playing against a Rob Lucci. And this player, I believe his name is Brandon, and I think he won the dice roll, and he thought to go first. A lot of these players play Doflamingo, and they want to take first away from me, and it's just fine if they do. I like going second in a lot of matchups, and I have a strategy. It's kind of bizarre, because going second in Rob Lucci is really, really good. So I don't think that's exactly the optimal play. However, he chose to do it. And we went from there. I was able to just attack him for 5s all game and 6s and just clear his board. I think at one point I took a picture because he had 5 blockers out. I asked him. We had a really good, entertaining game. And essentially I was able to come home with the win just because I was had a huge advantage with removing his big bodies. I was able to remove the big bodies, which was basically to say I removed all of his offense. And he was only left with defense, which can be hard. So from there, I go to my next game, which is game 5. I face a Zoro. I don't remember the guy's name at the time. I gotta say, this was probably one of my hardest games to date. as far as this goes, and I believe he won the dice roll. He decided to go first. I had my normal going second strategy, but everything wasn't looking too well for me. He was removing my board constantly. I had 2 Mihawks in my hand. He was going actually really aggressive, attacking my face with all these characters and making it really hard to remove them as well. And I was just forced to only attack board. And there was a sudden switch in his game plan. All of a sudden, he was not attacking board, he was building board. And that was right after I ran out of counter. So I was able to survive, and I did an interesting play as well. I played down a Kaya so I can draw 2 cards and discard 2 Mihawks. I needed to get the Mihawks out of my hand. I did not want to see those at all. And essentially, I was able to slowly grind this out, clearing only board and then eventually killing him. And honestly, it was a real grind. I think my opponent made a little bit of a mistake adjusting his game to not go aggressive anymore. And I always say this, never half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing. So if you're going to keep going aggressive, just keep going aggressive. And maybe his hand didn't support that. I think he had a lot of events in hand, and with those events he was just kind of clogged with not any more characters, and maybe that's why I had to switch around things not to be as aggressive. But at the time, I don't know, I felt like in the middle of the game I was losing that game 100%. I don't know how I got that game back, to be honest. I think maybe just me being so confident maybe applied to that. So at this point, I'm 5-0. I end up going on the live stream. I'm table 1. I'm against Ayo, your boy. I can't remember his rest of his tag. But I end up being on stream, and you can watch that at Brian's, I believe. I'll just leave the link in the description below for you guys to watch that. That's game 6. And currently I'm 5-0. I face a Zoro. I win the die roll, and I decide to actually, no, he wins the die roll yeah, he wins the die roll. And he decides to go first, obviously. And unfortunately, he mulligans, I don't mulligan, and he ends up with a pretty bad starting hand because he doesn't play anything on his turn 1 turn. And I go to my turn 2 turn, I pass turn, and he plays a Haruta, and I know that if he's a good player, because he's 5-0, he should be a good player, that if he's playing Haruta, he's probably playing Eventless, which is a pretty good matchup for me. I'm liking Eventless, so I don't have to worry about my characters being bopped. So he plays a Haruta, and then he attacks a Zoro for 7 using the Haruta skill, and I 3,000 worlds it. And honestly, just from that alone, I was able to control board the whole time. We're both at no cards in hand. I'm always clearing his board. He has to always play defensively because I might go for game, and I just slowly get a win out of him. And you know, it's not really too big of a deal. I just played the way my deck is, and just the cards fell where they fell. And at this point, I am now 6-0. Now, on the 7th game, I end up facing Kyle. Kyle plays Whitebeard, and this is where things turn around. I do take a L here, and he played this Whitebeard very well, but I think I may have had a point where I possibly could have won, but it would have been so close. Like, these things happen. I don't even think it was a mistake. Basically, he first of all was able to go first, but he didn't play down an ace on curve, and I think it's because I drew my out with my Pacifist Akumas. Kuma is a very, very strong card when it comes out, so I'm able to basically still have a board, even though they killed it. So I saw my essentially 1 out, and he decides not to play the ace right away, which I was just fine with. He does end up clearing my board later, but he ends up playing a bunch of speed gels and an Atmos. He had 3 speed gels and Atmos at one time. I did remove the first Atmos in order to kind of negate some aggression. I believe that was on my 8th dawn turn. And going from there, to be honest, really all that really happened is at the end of the game, I had 4 dawn up, I had 2 love mellows, I had a 3,000 worlds. I wasn't losing the game, but I think I possibly could have gotten away with blocking with Boa and using skill so I can get like an extra body out there, because the end was really close. I couldn't tell you how close it really was, but he was able to get the game probably by a few cards. Probably wasn't as close as I'm thinking it was, but he ended up winning the game. And GG's to Kyle. I think he ended up getting 6 in the whole tournament. And yeah, we go on my next game. I'm 6-1, and I'm facing a Zoro player. This player was friends with the Nick on the 3rd game, and this player, essentially, he even asked me, what did I do wrong there? Well, I was able to go first, and I saw my most beautiful curve. At the time, I kind of told him I don't think there was anything he could do. I think I just saw it all. Like, I just drew really well. And I wouldn't know how to combat my own deck if I was Zoro. I always say, if you can do one thing, whole-ass one thing, don't half-ass 2 things. But honestly, I think I just drew really well against him, and that's it. I think he ended up going 7-2, so he won his next game. So that's really good for him and really good for my tie breaks. And we'll see how that goes. The next game, the final game. And I want to preface this. I am pretty nervous. You know, I'm 7 win, 1 loss. I just 1 win away from winning a Luffy card and making away into the sunset and with all my dreams and hopes. And I face a Law. A Law sits across from me and he wins the damn die roll. He chooses to go first, which is odd because I would have won second. And William here, unfortunately, he lost his very first game. And I want to say he won this game by a mile. And what I mean by that is I drew well. I drew so well. I probably drew the best I've ever drew against anything. However, he played on a Bonnie turn 1, and he saw Laws all game long. There's no beating any Law player when they just see Bonnies and Laws all day. I don't think you can absolutely ever beat that, and he just kind of walked all over me. Fortunately, he got 10th place, which I believe does get him a national bye. He may have already had that. He does get a Sakazuki as well, and we joked about it after, but I want to say this very, very, very clear. You cannot collude for games for pricing. It would knock someone else out. It risked me getting banned. It risked the other person getting banned and things like that. Not to tell you, you know, how would they ever know, right? But, you know, I think they would know because he beat me in the game, right? There's people around me. So even if that was an option, why would I choose that? I think I'll just take the L and hope I get top 16. Unfortunately, I ended up getting 17th. And, you know, my tiebreakers were close. I'm not that upset about it. It is like $1,000, right, out of all that, and essentially the difference of a Sakazuki. And you know, these things happen. Someone's got to be the bubble person, but I've also bubbled in before, so it's kind of like pretty fine. And I do want to say I did feel fine about all this, and going into everything at the end of the day, getting my pricing, I actually made a little mistake, guys. I dropped some cards, and so now I have some bent finalist cards in the corner. So I will be asking people if they would like to buy some cards at a very, very discounted rate. I would show you all of those in an extremely KEKFILA discounted rate. And then if you feel so bad for me, maybe you're willing to buy some other Borsalino Kuzo cards that are not damaged. And I will definitely leave maybe something in the beginning of this video just showing people I want to sell these cards. So that's just fine from there. Now, with that, I just go home with Jules. I think we go to Stanburger and have a Stanburger, go to Target and everything. I'm kind of on top of the world doing 17th. He didn't do that well that day, unfortunately. I think he got unlucky. And, essentially, we just had a good night, you know, had some popcorn, watched 2 episodes of One Piece, took a shower, and we passed out, sleeping in until we have to go to our chopper event at 11 in the morning. Now, at 11 in the morning, we got there a little before that, talked to a lot of people, had some fun, and then ended up playing against, it was a 6 rounds, okay? And I did ask, can I record these games? They said yes. However, I couldn't find the stand in my backpack. I ended up finding it later, which was kind of frustrating, but is what it is. So with that, I faced round 1 of Zoro. This is actually an extremely close game, and I think I was able to pull the win out because I drew well near the end of the game, and so I get a win there. So now 1-0. Then I face a Whitebeard. That Whitebeard player, I just... I believe I just went first, drew well, and maybe he made one mistake. I want to say most Whitebeard players don't know this, but if you have a blocker, just take the damage. You're fine. You don't have to worry about me going for lethal that early. So that's how that went. And now on round 3, I ended up facing a Kuro, my first girl to face at the tournament, and essentially, she's probably watching this anyway, but essentially all that happened was she bricked, unfortunately, and, you know, we talked a lot about Kuro, and I tried it, and Will to Win Gaming, and stuff like that, and, you know, I think I gave her a loser draw later in the day, and with that, you know, it was just a good game, and I go on to the next round, and to kind of, I guess I'm going to stop in the middle of the story. For this chopper event, the first place does get a chopper, but also top 8 get 8 event packs, which is like Jinbei, Bartolomeo. Really good value, right? So going forward with that, I end up facing round 4 a Katakuri player, and he'll definitely see this video because he's, I guess he's a fan now. Basically, he drew well. I drew so bad, like terrible. I didn't see a searcher until the end of the game, where it did not matter anymore. I saw a searcher, and I would blind flipped, missed, blind flipped again, missed, blind flipped the 3rd time. I hit, blind flipped the 4th time. I hit, so I had to hit 2 blind flips in order to get some bodies out. And the funny thing is, I had the game. I had it all. But he took such a long time, and I've talked about this before, and he's messaged me, being like, "Ah, bro, I'm sorry, you know, you don't rage at me." I'm not raging to anybody. Essentially, when you take such a long time on a turn, sometimes your opponent might make a mistake, and that's exactly, I think, what happened. Because everyone's waiting for us to finish, a lot of people watching. I don't think it's the pressure. I could have blocked with the boa, drew a card, used a 2K and a 1K. I just needed the one more buy to win. He ended up winning, which helped my tiebreakers, so I'm not like all that upset about it. But I lost that, so now I'm 3-1. I go to round 5. I face, I believe, a Zoro player, and I ended up drawing really well against him and just getting the game from there. And then I go to round 6, and I face a Whitebeard, and you know, he's actually kind of an older guy, like maybe 40s, 50s. That's how I want to describe him when I look at him. Maybe that's too old. 50's probably too old, but he actually played the game so well. He knew what to do, and even though I won the die roll, I went first. I curved out well. He played it so well that I couldn't win, and it really had to come down to like a blocker, pretty much. He had a blocker, which was super annoying. I couldn't get rid of it, so it was unfortunate of that. But again, pretty crazy when it came to that. So I go 4 wins, 2 losses, and I bubble into top 8. So I get my 8 event packs. I give 1 to Jules, and I'll put that in my vlog as well when I pull all those. It'll be all fun and dandy. And honestly, that was just hilarious that I bubbled into top 8 with that, because all my opponent's tiebreakers were probably pretty nuts. And now going into this, I actually got into a box tournament. It was the very last box tournament that was available. Got in with Saucy. I got in with actually Eggman. Eggman joined in. And then obviously Jules also joined in this one as well. And this is the last tournament. Like, they're closing down the event. There's no one here at the event anymore. It's just basically this little box tournament. And I'll go through all my games. So before I go into the first game, I want to say that my opponent looked at me, I looked at him, and he's like, "What deck should I play?" And I'm like, "Oh, you haven't decided that yet?" I'm like, "Do you want to know what I'm playing? Because I guess I don't really care, you know, what you choose. It's just kind of funny." I'm like, "You know what? I won't tell you, because I'll let you guess. You can probably make a good guess." He's like, "You look like a Dofi player. I'll play Big Mom." I'm like, okay, that's such an interesting choice, but I don't think he was trying to play for advantage either. I guess he's there for mostly fun. And it was an entertaining, unique game. I did not get this on record, but I'll tell you what happens. In this Big Mom game, this guy, I took every damage, okay, because that's my strategy against Big Mom. And on his 5-Don turn, he swings and then he plays a Soul Pocus. And I take a life. And then on a 7-Don turn, he swings 7. He's not building board, by the way. He's not building board. So I'm winning the board game by a mile because he's not building board because of Soul Pocus. He swings 7 and then plays a Soul Pocus. And I take the burn again. So I burn twice. So on a 7-Don turn, I'm at 0 life. Okay. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I guess I just have to have 2 blockers up at all time. Not a big deal. Because I have a beautiful field of like wide. I don't have to go tall. And there's nothing to remove on this side of the field because he's not playing anything. So I just kind of closed the game by going so wide and having 2 blockers up and maybe some Dawn active. He just wasn't able to build a board ever again. And it was just smooth sailing because of that. But it was an interesting game nonetheless to be at 0 life on 7-Don turn. On their 7-Don turn. So he also chose to go first, which was to throw me off, but it doesn't. I want to go second, so it's different. Okay. My second game, again, this is a 4-round win-a-box with some Nami sleeves. So my second game, I ended up facing a Law. This player is actually really good, and he was very pro Doflamingo. Because he's like, oh, I main Doflamingo, I had max rarity. But he had his deck stolen at Gen Con. And he said, screw it, I'm going to play Law. Because that's what always beat him. And, you know, he was like basically Team Doflamingo the whole time. And unfortunately, he bricked. He bricked pretty hard. He missed like a search early on. He doesn't sing his laws too early. And the game was actually really close. And I had to use a bluff mellow, pretending I had a love mellow, or if I get a love mellow out of life. And I actually would have won regardless, but it was very close. And I mean, I actually, the first time I used a bluff mellow, I was able to barely hold on with that. If he put for all of it, I think I lost. But the second turn, because I drew so many extra cards from other skills, I was able to defend definitely anything. And the thing is, why I even say that is because my last life was a 3,000 worlds, and he's going to attack me with Luffy first. So I'm going to take it to see what I get. And it's going to bottom deck any of his cards, so he can't shambles and use a restand law. And I just knew he had a restand law the whole turn, the whole game, actually. So I knew every card in his hand. I just attacked for 7, 8, 9, whatever, and then win the game barely. It was a competitive match. That was a competitive match. Game 3, and this one's actually gonna be a YouTube video, so get ready for that. It's gonna have Saucy in it, and I faced Saucy. It's our first game ever playing against each other legitimately, because we've done like a casual match, but this is our first legit match. Doflamingo versus Doflamingo. It felt so much pressure for know who's Dofi King, and I want to say respectfully, Josh is a very good Dofi player. Okay, and so immediately I say to him, "What should we do for die rolling? Can we throw it off the wall, like do some dice game?" And we just make it a casual roll, and he beats me in the roll. And I'm like, fuck, if I won, I would have been cheering up and down the streets and throwing a party, but I lost. Guys, he didn't rub it in my face. He didn't rub it in my face. I would have been much worse. And I'm recording this whole game, and basically he kept his hand because he had a 3-cost Doflamingo, but I think the top of his deck was really bad because he used 3-cost Doflamingo, and his next turn he used skill for his leader, and then he played a Perona. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like he just is digging for cards and things aren't running out. Things aren't doing very well, which is just unfortunate, right? However, I saw a pretty decent hand. It wasn't the most broken. And essentially, I was able to play down 2 Mihawks, going second, and kind of getting the win. It was a very competitive game, but I think that mid-game stop from him was unfortunate. And I gotta say, one thing is as big as know when to take damage from your opponent, and it's kind of an interesting debate here. I always say that your life is actually a resource. If you can go down to 0 life and still live, then you're fine. You don't, it's actually an advantage for you. And so I was able to just kind of take that resource that he gave me and maximize that without dying, but I definitely was low life for a long time, and that leads me to lethal range when they kind of go for all of it. Now, with that, I'm now 3-0. I go to round 4, and I'm kind of waiting for a while. My opponent's taking a long time with his turn in his other game, and they finally finish, and he allows me to record that game, and I'm pretty happy about that. And I end up facing a Zoro. And this game was extremely competitive, and the way I mean by that, he was able to see a Rad Beam, a 9-cost Newgate, and a Marco blocker. And I want to say there was a turning point of the game where essentially what happened was that he had his blocker out, and my field was a 9-cost Mihawk and my leader. So he had his Marco blocker, and he had his leader, and he had a few life and cards in hand, and his Newgate was sideways. So I'm thinking, how can I get rid of this Newgate? I don't have a 3,000 worlds to get rid of it. So this is basically the side I can't get rid of it, and he's at 2 life. So his Marco will come back. So what ends up happening is that I swing 9 at his leader, and he blocks with that. And I'm thinking to myself, well, now his Newgate's open. I can put 10 Dawn. I wanted to call the top card of my deck to play like a Gecko Moria, because that's what I set up to have happen. If he didn't block that first attack, I would have just swung at his leader doing things right. But what I did is I just threw all 10 Dawn on my leader and went 15 at his Newgate, and he had he only had like 4K counter. So, or maybe exactly, yeah, he had 4K counter. I have to trust he has like 5K counter, or maybe 6. He would count it out at 6K counter if he had it. So he lets it die. And now he basically doesn't have much of a field at all. And I'm able to just kind of slowly win that game there. But that was a very pivotal point of the game, was getting rid of his 9-cost Newgate by attacking it for 15 with my leader. Which honestly is a unique game state. And you will see this game on YouTube as well. And essentially, yeah, you can judge it then when it comes out. And that was the end of it. We leave and we go get some food, and I open like a medium box. I hang out with Cry and basically Jules' friends, and then we go back to the hotel, and we come back the next day, back over the land of the free, beautiful Mormon, Utah, and we just had a good time. And now I'm just making content for you guys as much as I can. And if you made it to this part of the video, I do want to say thank you so much for making it all the way through. And congrats to any giveaway winners. And also, I do want to say thank you so much for everyone who came up to me. Thank you everyone who just talked to me, had fun. Appreciate the loser Don, and really just, you know, also subbed and just met. It was a really good time. I'll be there back in November, and if you're interested in any of these special finalist cards, just follow my Twitter. I'll be selling some things on there. Check out Facebook, and I'll be selling some other cards. So if you want to make sure your money is going to the right place, me, to support me, and you want some cards, then absolutely my PMs are always open. So yeah. Thank you all so much for watching this long video, and I will see you in the next one, probably gameplay videos soon. Ciao.